For us to understand workshop 2, first things first, we need to appreciate the fact that the general rule is land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. Okay, that is the general rule. Okay, that's the general rule. Land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. Okay, that's the general rule. Under Article 237, Clause 1. Okay, land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. So then after learning that land belongs to the citizens of Uganda, government does not own land, but government holds some land in trust of Ugandans. Okay? When you look at again, Article 237, Clause 2, it specifies some category of land which the government holds in trust of the citizens. And that land includes 1, forestry. Okay. 2, riverbanks. 3, lake shores. Game reserves, etc., etc. Okay. So now, ask yourself, if that land as it is, okay, that the government holds it in trust, okay, okay, under such circumstances, you ask yourself, how can we, yes, we are the owners, but can you just wake up and enter and utilize that land? The answer no. And then ask yourself, why did the government decide to hold that kind of property on our behalf? Okay. The essence is for preservation of the environment. That's the essence. Because if you see all the category of land that is protected, it falls under that category. Okay. So now, once you are given the workshop or the IA, first ask yourself, the facts before me fall under what category of land? Okay. And then, if we are dealing with the environment, what composes the environment? Okay. Which law should I put emphasis on? So the first law that deals with everything in regards to the environment is called the National Environmental Management Act, the NEMA Act. So that means before you do anything, you have to first understand that act. Okay? Because it deals with everything in the environment. Then after, ask yourself, the facts before me basically deal with what type of environment? Is it the environment under forestry? If it is under forestry, then zero down to the NFA Act, the National Forestry, okay? The NFA Act, okay? Then, if you are not dealing with forestry, you might be dealing with riverbanks and lakes. Then you go to what we call riverbanks and lake shores regulations. So, depending on the kind of environment you are dealing with, it's the law you should read. Okay? Now, again, when you look at those laws, okay, they have some activities that are totally prohibited, and then some other activities that are accepted. So again, ask yourself, under this, what do we deal with? What kind of activities do my clients intend to do? Okay. So let's go to the NEMA Act now. Okay. When you are looking at the NEMA Act, emphasis should be first put on what we call no one has the NEMA Act. Okay, so what are we looking for in the NEMA Act basically? Okay, look at establishment of the authority and you understand its duties in the first place. Okay, because that authority governs everything. Okay, that act empowers Parliament to enact other laws. The essence of enacting such laws is for preservation of the environment. Okay. Okay. So. Yes. Establishment of the authority. Are you there? It's not. But when you're pressing it, okay. Yes. Okay. So let's go to establishment of the authority. Okay. Establishment of the authority. Sana, which section? We have what we call the National Environment Act. Okay. No, and you also have what we call, yes. So what act are you having? You read. You read short title. Yes. Of which year? Council of which year are you having? We have the Act of 2019. Okay. Council, I see you reading old law. Okay. Yes. So when you look at section 8, okay, it establishes the management authority. Okay. Okay. So council. Okay, it's called the National Environment Act of 2019. Okay. So council. Overdog games. Yes, it's the National Environment Act. Okay. So we go on of 2019. So section 8 establishes the authority. Okay. Then when you go to section 9, 10, and 11, basically I'm interested in 9 and 10. Okay. Which gives the mandate and functions of the authority under section 9. Okay. So the gist of that section, what we basically want from there, okay, it says that the authority to advise and formulate implementation of environmental and climate change policies, plans, and programs. From that function, okay, you underline, it says to advise on the formulation and implementation of environmental and climate change policies, plans, and programs. Underline policies and plans. Okay? Why? Because of this act, we have another institution that the government created for proper implementation of this. Okay? And this institution is known as the Physical Planning Authority, under which act? The Physical Planning Act. Okay, because those acts are many, but each act has the reason why you should read it. So because of this, when you go, depending on the type of business your client intends to establish, for example, your client, if your client intends to do industrial, first go for what we call, go and look at what we call the Physical Planning Act. What things should you accompany your application with? Under the Physical Planning Act, you are required to have an approved plan from an approved architecture company. From the Physical Planning Act, then also, because remember, we have places which are gazetted for specific purposes. That's why you have the Physical Planning Act. So you can't come with an industry that deals in plastic. You're going to make plastic bottles. Because you are the owner of this land at Kagugube, you construct there. Under the Physical Planning Authority that governs this area, you are not allowed. This is not an industrial park. So they'll send you where to? Namaville. Because of physical. Okay. Then again, when you come to basing on the same section that we've just read, because of the advice, remember, all these entities, the rationale is preservation of the ecosystem, okay, and the environment. So before you establish anything in these restricted zones, because of this provision, we have another law known as the impact assessment. The impact assessment, that one you have it on your act, non so? It's called the impact assessment. Okay, regulations. So because you visited, we first started with the Constitution. We went to the NEMA Act, then we went to the Physical Planning. So the presumption is you visited the Physical Planning, you are approved to work in that area, not so? Now the question is, the project you want to commence, what percentage of impact? Is it a positive or a negative impact on our environment? So it is upon you, the person, to commence this project, to go and carry out what we call the impact assessment on your project. So that one will proceed under which law? Okay. So now at this point, I want us to look through those two acts before we cross to another act. We see who has the mandate and how everything is supposed to be done. Okay. So now let's go to the Physical Planning Act. Okay. It is there. The National Physical Planning Guidelines. It's Act number 12. On some of your acts, I don't know. Yes. Okay. Act. So that act, it has also regulations. Okay. Okay. From the National Planning Act, it's where we get the physical planning regulations. Okay. Many of you have constructed buildings, but you don't know that even the cement is supposed to should be approved. Even the type of bricks. We have another act known as the Construction Act. It is here. The Building Act. But some of you, when you want to construct, just rush. You construct at night before. Let us, we are lawyers. Okay? So, so when you go to the National Planning Authority Act, this one establishes which institution? Okay? It establishes the National Planning Authority. Okay? But it does not specify basically what these things do. Not so? Then after, you go to its regulations. Okay? Yes? The functions, but the functions are not so, okay? But when you look at section 7, and section 7 basically, subsection 1 and 2, it says the primary function of the authority is to produce a comprehensive and integrated development plan. Okay? Under this, because this is a national organization, it does what we call decentralization. That's why on each and every district, we have what we call the physical planning office. Okay? Because of this, so they go on, even on divisions. So, because each district has what we call that physical planning department. So it does the planning of the district, that this area, we need this. In this place, we need this. When you go to Mbale, you look at the city of Mbale, look at the city of Jinja, look at Masaka, look at Kabale, but leave Kampala for as of now. Leave Kampala out. Look at Lira, look at Gulu and Karamoja. Those cities, okay, they are totally different. Why? They do implementation of the planning structure. But you come to Kampala, where everything is supposed to be, it is not there. Things are done the other way around. So whenever I want to start a project, first things first, ask yourself, the project I'm going to carry out from this act, okay, does it fit in the area where I want it to operate from? That's the first question. Because you'll come with your project when it doesn't operate from Nakawa. What will you tell your clients? That I didn't know, I didn't see this coming. How do we explain that? Okay, so then after that, we look at the regulations. Okay, but the regulations are also almost the same. Okay, you see, we are reading these provisions, they look funny, they are boring, eh? But you have what we call a procedure in your workshop of obtaining that license. You will see when people are explaining, because each step comes from the act. Yeah? Each step comes from the act. Okay, so let's go to the regulations. What do they tell us to do? The guidelines. Okay. Okay, so now when you look at now they are very small, eh? But basically start with chapter 2. You see that these things are divided. We have residential standards, we have plot size and shape, building lines, plot coverage. So depending, they'll give you facts where the size of the plot your client has is not acceptable under these guidelines. Because currently when it comes to Kampala, the smallest plot is 50 by 100. Even in cities, not so. Even if you go to Jinja, Mbale, it should be 50 by 100. So they'll give you facts where your client has something smaller than. When you come to these guidelines, such plots are no longer allowed. So for you proceed, you process the license on a long size of plot. Okay. So when you look at this chapter 2, it goes on dividing the different things that should put into consideration. Okay. Okay. Now, then after that, we presume that you are within the right lane of the area you want to utilize. Okay. Your presumption is the plot size is okay. You have an approved plan from an approved architecture. Okay. So now, after that, you have to carry on what we call impact assessment. Then we go to what we call the impact assessment regulations. How do we make the impact assessment? What should it contain? Because they can give you facts where you are representing government and the guy did an assessment which is not composed as per the guidelines. What is the effect of that impact assessment? Will it be considered or it won't be considered? So are we there? We have what we call the environmental impact assessment regulations. Now, not all projects, mark this, not all projects require impact assessment. So the first thing you do, you first come to regulation 3. It says application of these regulations, then to all projects in the third schedule. Okay, then you open the third schedule before you say you're going to do the impact. What if the project you have doesn't fall within the categories? Okay, then you open the schedule. It's behind. Okay. First, second, okay. Of the acts. First way. Yes, okay. Listen, it says, okay, to all projects in the third schedule of the act, go to the interpretation section of that very act, go to the interpretation section first. Okay, that very act you have in the rules, interpretation rule 2, it says act means, you get it. Then you go to the National Environment Act, you open the third schedule. Okay, look at the types of projects that are there. Then you come to your facts, you see whether the project of your client falls within the schedule. Okay, this week looks a bit simple, eh? But it has its own problems. Okay. Okay. So when we open the third schedule of the act, which projects are there? So you look at them. What's it mean with the act? Okay, those who have the act, it is don't have it on your Compedia. Okay. So it says
an activity out of character with its surroundings. B, any structure of a skill not in keeping with its surroundings, major changes in land use. Then 2, urban development, including it's of the National Environment Act of 150.
It's very old. Regulations of 1990.
we have others here. Okay. So schedule 2. So look at section 19 of the act we have. Okay, that one, those with the act of online. Look at section 19. Okay, look at the name, the act you have. Look at its section 49. Okay, section, look at 49. Okay, now look at section 49 of the not the old act, the new act. Okay, in the new act, it is schedule 4, which has such categories of projects that require briefs. Okay, have you seen it? It's in the 4th schedule of the National Environment Act. Okay, now section 49 talks about briefs. Yes, what we call impact assessment. It's called a brief in this new act. Okay, so when you look at that 4th schedule, it says the first one, transportation equipment and related infrastructure. So you ask yourself, do we follow within that? No. You go to the next one, communication facilities. We are we've not yet looked at the type of adventure. Then 3, exploration and power generation, transmission and distribution infrastructure. Okay, are we following there? Then another one, utilization of water resources and water supply. Okay, then housing and urban development, agriculture, livestock management and fisheries, food and beverage industries, nature conservation areas, hotel tourism and recreational development, mining industry, extraction of non-mineral products, etc., etc. Okay, so when you see that the project of your client falls within the 4th schedule, okay, we automatically need, yes, it's you, okay, go to the 4th schedule. Okay, so when we are reading our facts, we shall see, because you may say impact assessment when the project you have doesn't need impact assessment. Okay, yes, you put 4th schedule. So if the project does not fall within the 4th schedule, doesn't require impact assessment. Okay, this just look at where it comes from. Look at here. Okay. We go on. So now we've made the assessment. Okay. Now the presumption is we know what to do. Okay. So next, after making the assessment, what next? It depends on what you want to do. If it requires construction or building, then you go to what we call the Building Act. Why? You're going to bring material now, but which type of material are you going to use? Once you use material that is not allowed, that's why you see KCCA coming, they take your wheelbarrows, they take everything. Okay? So the Building Control Act. Okay, so now, why do we use that act? all the material you're going to use. You can't just wake up and say, I may have my bricks at home. I want to construct here at the river bank. Not all bricks are allowed. So you first go there, they say, we need this type of sand, we need this type of cement, we need this type of bricks, we need this size of iron bars. Everything should be streamlined by the building. Okay, before you start the construction. So now the question is, where are you going to construct? Are you going to construct in the waters, on the river banks, the lake shore, or in the forest? Then after that, because every place where you're going to deal with has the law that governs it. So depending on where you're going to deal, if you are going to deal with the forest, then you zero down to the NFA Act. You get the license. Again, when you go under the NFA Act, depending, because it stipulates we have dealing with forestry products, that is cutting timber, okay? We have constructing in the forest. So those businesses are different, okay? So let's first go to the NFA Act. You don't have the National Forest. Number 4, okay? So now, first things first, ask yourself, okay, what is a forest? Remember that question in P1. It's a collection of many trees. It's a collection of many trees. Wish we can go back to those days. But you read the act, you doze, you wake up, you continue. Your daughter wakes you up, mommy, okay? So when you're looking at that act, what is a forest? Because for you, what you think is a forest may not be a forest, okay? So when you go to the interpretation section, it says a forest means an area of land containing vegetation association that is predominantly composed of trees, any size, and includes. So when they say and includes, they're giving you types of forests. Okay? We have natural forests. Then we have forests classified under this act. Okay? We have what you call those classified. Okay? How? We have what you call a forest reserve. Okay? Where the government wakes up one morning, you have a lot of trees around your home, they reserve that. They do the process of what we call gazetting. Until it is degazetted, it will always be forest. Okay? So depending on the type of forest you're dealing with, even you people who plant your eucalyptus tree might be it is classified here. you plant your trees, you say some such as segregated palm trees, you plant. You can't just wake up and cut them and bring them to Kampala without a license. You ask those guys of Michiana during the era of the late Kasile Gwang. They was enforcing the law because that's the law. Okay? You ask those guys dealing in timber. You should have a license. It's your plantation, it is okay. But it is for purposes of preserving our environment. So don't wake up and cut that tree. You know how many people have been getting oxygen from it? Okay? So you get it. Okay? Now, then after you first come here, okay? And then go to what we call the classifications. You look at the type of forest that you're dealing with, okay? The classifications, I'm very sure people can read, not so? So now, if your client wants to establish a project, okay, in the forest, either dealing in, because I want you to differentiate these two things, okay? We have what we call trade in forest produce and then dealing in the forest. Those two things are different. Dealing in forest produce, the likes of smack or just Johnson, whatever the case may be, they cut wood, they cut stems, they cut leaves, everything that is a forest produce. Even leaves, even grass is a forest produce. So for you to deal in it, you should possess a license. Even mushrooms. Yes, they are included in the app. Yes, because they'll give you facts. They list a couple of things the client wants to do. Okay?
I'm going to put
This means that everything is what we call a forest produce. Okay?
You're dealing in forest product.
Okay? So again, so now depending on what your client wants to do, if you want to do what we call tree planting, okay, or trading in the forest produce, those two things are different because we have, for example, we have what we call forest cottages. Okay, they have a license. They are not trading in forest produce. You get it? If you've ever gone to Malachi, you see the type of buildings in Malachi, they are temporary. They don't allow permanent structures in the forest. Okay? You go to Ginger.
It's Malachi first. Malachi is not the first. That's ecology. It's not the
Okay? It is a reserved place as well. It has waters and also has not those because they are natural trees, they're not man-made. They're not man-made.
nature.
It is a reserve. Okay? It's a reserve. Now, another example, you see this place in around Nigeria, it's called Nyunguyamau. Those are man-made trees, not so. They planted their trees because most of them is characters, but they have a license to construct that place there.
Which place?
Okay, the so-called Nyunguyamau resort, forest resort. Okay, why? Because for them they're not dealing, they are operating within, but not dealing in forest produce. So differentiate the two. You'll have facts that require dealing in forest produce, or you proceed under another law. Okay, so when you want to dealing in forest produce, you proceed under section 44. Okay, you proceed under section 44. Okay, dealing in forest produce. Okay, so you first have to first come and understand what amounts to forest produce, so that you look at your facts and say, okay, we are dealing in forest produce. Okay, then you look at section 41, how you get the license and how you apply for it under section 41. Okay, yes, yeah, okay. So then, if you are not going to deal in forestry, you are likely to deal in what? We have water. Then you go to the Water Act. Yes, you have it here. The Water Act. This is water. NEMA is the general act. But then depending on whatever you're going to deal with, you go to the you get it. Okay? Because they're going to tell you client wants to carry on, has boats and everything. You first get a license under the Water Act to do what we call water transport business. Yes. Okay? Yeah. Okay, you get it? Yes. So when if you're going to deal, okay, you're going to carry on business on water. Okay, you want to carry out any activity in water, you go for the water.
There is direct threat of water resource management and the Ministry of Water and Environment. Based in Entebbe,
okay,
which implements this.
It's the one that does this implementation. You see, everyone that has a boat, okay,
the boats require the number plate.
The Water Act,
and they pay license.
Okay, you have to get a license. Then on that license, the boat has to be having a number plate. Okay, so Hajat is saying the driving permit. Yes.
No, you don't require
You get it. Okay.
Just need a number plate.
So then, because I don't think you have to pass something concerning water. Okay. Members, we need to go through the workshop. It's approaching 9. Okay. Then, if you are not going to deal with water, you are likely to deal with its river bank or then you go to what we call lake shores and river bank regulations. Then under those regulations, first ask yourself, which type of business is allowed on the river banks and the shores? Not all businesses are allowed. Okay. Under that, let's go to those regulations. Okay, it is called the National Environment, Wetlands, River Banks, and Lake Shores Management Regulations. So depending, is Rela, where does Rela fall? Rela, Katonga, Bwaise. That's a wetland, those are wetlands. Okay, it's a wetland. It's a wetland after Busega. Okay, the entire Bwaise. Okay, but that one I don't know. Okay, are we together? So now, for example, okay, for example, okay, they can give you facts when you are representing Pastor Robert Kayanja, who wants to carry out the business of farming in Rera. Okay, or rice. Okay, not talking about Pastor Kakande. Yeah. Okay, you get it. So for him to carry on that type of business in that wetland, you come in these regulations. Okay, you go to the part of wetlands, only that you see what type of business is allowed in a wetland and you proceed. Okay, then if you are proceeding, okay, with, because I'm very sure you are, if you are proceeding with lake shores, you go to the part that deals with lake shores. Okay, that is part 3, which says management of lake shores and river banks. Okay, yes, of those regulations. Okay, so when you go to, it has no page, some number. Okay. It's a wetland. I think we put a mass on no. River banks.
Management of river banks and lake shores.
Okay, so you come. Okay. Now, when you look at part 3, okay, which says that application of this part, the government and where it applies, then ask yourself, which type do this regulation say the type of business to be carried out? Okay, it says when you look at 21, identified actions on riverbanks and lake shores. So you first read the actions before you tell your client that this can take place. Because you may have a project which cannot operate on river banks. Okay, here they're saying each local government shall, after the recommendations for the appropriation of the risk and environmental derogation, then promoting soil conservation measures along riverbanks, follow the following: 1, building, terracing, mulching. Okay, mulching, tree planting. Then you have control of livestock grazing. So look at, are these activities allowed or not allowed? They are allowed. So that means, okay. Okay. So then after this, that means all other projects, okay, all other projects are not allowed. So for you to carry on that project, you should have a license. Okay. For example, what type of projects can take place on riverbanks? When you come to 23, it says a person who intends to carry out any of the following activities shall make an application to the executive director in form set out. Okay, so you look at 23, it tells you the projects that require a license. So you see whether the project of your client falls within them. A, to use, erect, to reconstruct, place, alter, extend, remove, or demolish any structure or part of any structure in, under, or over the river banks or lake shores. That means construction is allowed, but upon obtaining a license. Then 2, excavate, drill, tunnel, or otherwise disturb the river bank. Okay. Then introduce or plant any of a plant, whether alien or indigenous, on the river bank. Introduce any animal or microorganism, whether alien or indigenous. Deposit any substance on the river bank or lake shore, if that. Okay, so you get it. So it depends the type of business. So you have in fact the businesses that are allowed. Simple as that. You apply for the license, the procedure is here. Okay, how you apply. Okay,
In the regulation, right?
it tells you the application is in the specified form. Simple as that. Okay, it says that the application shall be made in form 1 set out in the first schedule of the regulations. This is form A. Simple as that. You make the application, then okay. Okay, so now what is started with this caption? So now when you read your facts, everything will just be simple. Okay, so let's read the facts and we see. Okay, so let's get our workshop. Okay, let's get a workshop and we see. Very simple. Okay, okay, but as a must, read case number 1. Summer Street. Okay, Amot Godfrey Nyakana versus Nema and others. Okay, It's a must read. At least you read that. Okay. Then also probably case number 3. Okay. Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment versus AG. Okay. Look at them. Okay. So let's go to our facts. They're saying that we go on. It says, are we all there? I show the workshop. So you're sharing one because I just the workshop. Okay. Okay, we said fascinated by the announcement of the final investment decision FID for Uganda's oil and gas projects by the Uganda National Oil Company. The Total Energies, EP Uganda, and Sinaco Uganda Limited, and the Tanzania Petroleum Development Corporation in February 2022. David James embarked on searching for land in the Bunyoro region with the dream of establishing a world-class tourism facility to cater for only high-end people, who will benefit financially from the oil and gas boom. A member of parliament from Bunyoro sub-region has so far helped him to make inroads in the tourism committee of parliament, which they intend to help them take all the necessary steps to have at least 20 hectares of Makshon National Park land degazetted to facilitate the establishment of the tourism facility. You first stop there. Okay. First look at this. Okay. Makshon National Park. Okay. That land is where? It's what? It's a forest. Not so? So now you know where the law is supposed to read.
National Park.
It's a reserve.
No, you go to the wall. You go to the Authority Act. Read that.
And listen, first wait. Where does that land emanate from? Where the wildlife stay?
No, you are as a forest. Uganda Life Authority.
No, okay. What we mean, the question is, no, listen. The Uganda Wildlife Authority is an authority established to manage what? Wildlife. The question is, where does wildlife stay?
The national parks.
National parks, are they forests or not?
They are designated as national parks.
Yes, listen. But are they first forests or not?
They are not forests. Cancer, have you been in a national park?
Okay. Is a national park an open place like this or not?
It's a gazetted area.
Yes. Before it, yes, we are going slowly.
Forests are gazetted.
And
okay.
National parks let's go to the NFA Act. You open the Act.
Number what?
Some national forests are
national
parks are forests.
Number 4.
Yes, you open. Those forests, they have categories. We have what called forest reserves, okay? That means it was a forest, but then reserved for a particular purpose. You get it? So those forests are reserved for purposes of wildlife. Okay? You get it? Okay? So when you come to the NFA Act, okay, you come here and read
reading the law.
It's open page 9.
okay? You see? Okay.
Forest in Uganda,
Mhm.
classified as
Uh-huh.
Central Forest Reserve,
Yes.
Local Forest Reserve,
Yes.
Community Forest,
Mhm.
Private Forest,
Ah.
forests forming part of a wildlife conservation area declared under the Uganda Wildlife.
You get it?
Uganda.
No, listen. Could you go to the Wildlife Act before reading this section? Listen, Jeff, listen. Isn't it a forest classified under this act?
Forming part of wildlife conservation.
But it is what? Listen to the first word here, forests.
Whatever the combination.
No, listen. I'm not going to the national park. We are reading the law. Okay? We are reading the law. Look at this short title. It says
Forests, reserves, and other forests.
So all these are what?
Forests.
So that means even what you call game reserves, they are forests.
Forming part.
Exactly. So you first read this act, then you go to the act that follows after that. Okay? So that means okay? So that means your client is intending to deal with a forest. Okay? Then now you know the law to read. We go on. Okay? He says that the project members, let's get back, okay? Okay, so that means he's saying that that means this forest is gazetted for wildlife. So now, for him to utilize this forest, it should be degazetted. Degazetting means change of purpose. So all that land they are talking about is for action. Okay, it's a reserved forest for basically tourism. Okay, under the wildlife. So it is reserved, it is gazetted for tourism. Okay, so that means they have to reduce a sum of how many acres? 20 hectares to be degazetted for another purpose. Okay, are we together? We proceed. Okay, the project estimated to ultimately cost 25 million US dollars has excited all stakeholders, including senior officers of the Uganda Wildlife Authority, who feel the degazetting will not affect Uganda's wildlife. Underline that. Who feel? They just feel that the degazetting will not affect the Uganda wildlife, but will it affect or it will not? Okay, so we have to make what we call impact assessment. We go on. Okay, they believe that any animals that will be affected can be moved to Kidepo National Park in Karamoja. Okay, they identified 20 hectares in the national park, run along a section of River Nile, run along the section of river, along. Okay, so the question is, do you identify a river bank and a lake, a shore? We have river banks and lake shores. Lake shores are on lakes and then river banks are on. Now the question is, do you differentiate the two? Because they are saying alongside. Is this a river bank or it is a lake shore? Okay, it's a river bank. Okay, so you see now it has part of the forest and then part of river. So that means you're reading the NFA Act, okay? Then you are reading the river banks at the same time. We go on, okay? However, for the planned tourism facility to be more viable, the course of the river will have to be altered slightly with heavy damping in the river. Underline heavy damping. That means the river is going to be a damping site. Impact assessment. The damping, will it have an impact on increasing the water levels or not? What is the impact of increasing water levels? Okay. We go on. David James is looking at some of the solid waste that was obtained during the process of oil exploration to do this. So
That's another activity.
no, it's also the same. It's a dumping because it's going to dump the wastes from oil in this river. Okay. So now ask yourself, this river bank we have, okay, is yes? Because he wants to create space. So that means he has to dump, but the question is, okay, what is he going to dump there? They are saying he's looking at using, okay, the solid waste. So that means he's not even going to dump soil. He's going to dump the solid waste. These are chemicals from oil. So ask yourself, what is the impact of oil when it is dumped? You see how the impact assessment is a bit wide. Okay. Okay. So we said, in the meantime, to test these gems, okay, let's go on. In the meantime,
the heavy dumping in the river, it stops here. Then David James is looking at some of the solid waste that was obtained. Not like he's looking at dumping them. I don't know if
no, he's looking at using them. Yes, that's what that's what I've said. Okay, so we go on. Okay, says that in the meantime, to test David James's resolve to execute the project, Uganda Land Commission has granted James a 15-year lease over 2 hectares in the national park to set up a modern cafe and bar for tourism, to watch wild animals as they enjoy drinks and dinner. David James was issued a title under that. David James intends to create a deck where this activity can be held. In the middle of the park, the deck will be high enough to protect tourists from wild animals. Okay? You see, they are telling you how his project is intending to be. Okay? That means it is going to be extremely high. So does it have an impact? Remember, once you bring anything foreign in the forest, it scares the ecosystem. So that means, what type of material will he use that will not scare the eco? So where we are going now, what we call the Building Control Act. Okay, we go on. So it says that in the event that James James's grand plan over the 20 hectares succeeds. It is planned that besides the customary facilities such as hotel rooms, bus and swimming pool to be found in the world-class tourism facility, David James will establish the biggest crocodile farm in East Africa and Central Africa. This is what we call introduction of species. Okay, either indigenous or so. Do you have crocodiles? Okay, we don't have crocodiles on river banks, so he intends to create. So he's going to bring new species. Okay, how we go on. He feels that crocodiles, okay, reared will together with other wild animals that will be hunted from the national park ensure a steady supply of game meat, okay, for the visitors. Okay, game meat. What's the essence of game meat? Okay, what's the essence of game meat? Yes, you people, listen. What's the essence of game meat? Yes. Now, now what happens? You listen to this statement. He feels that the crocodiles reared will together with other wild animals that will be hunted from the national park ensure a steady supply for game meat for the visitors. It's consumption, but it's also another activity that requires, yes, okay. The hunting they're talking about, poaching, which is authorized. So it's an activity where you should get also a license. Okay, then you go to what we call the Wildlife Act. Okay, you get it. Okay, then they say that the district authorities concerned are happy about the intended project and have vowed to ensure that members, let's get back. We are concluding. Okay, the district authorities are happy about the intended project and they have vowed to ensure that the project succeeds. If all goes well, the project should be completed in the next 12 months. Okay, what does that mean? They need an expeditious process. Okay, then prepare a comprehensive legal opinion for David James on how he can realize his dreams. Okay, on how he can realize his obtaining licenses and the entire process. Very simple. Then advise on the viability of the land title he obtained in respect of the 2 acres. What does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? They told him, where did he obtain the title? He was granted a lease on that land. Okay, which institute granted him a lease? Uganda Land. Was Uganda Land Commission the owner of that land? That is gazetted land. Okay, so that means they don't issue titles on gazetted lands, but they only issue licenses. Simple as that when the workshop is done. Because that land is not owned. Remember, under Article 237, the government holds that land in trust. Okay, so that means you cannot own that land as an individual. You only acquire a license, but not a title. Okay, simple as that. The workshop is done. Okay, so how was the workshop had? Yeah, it's allowed. You should get a license. It requires a license as well. Just on the
Speed, yes. Rocket speed is to be regulated.
No, you know what you do when you go in the act, it has the time when the license is supposed to be considered. All the activities, because the authority shall within so that time regulates that speed. Okay, so that has been the end of this workshop, and that marks the end of land transactions at the back course. You started with understanding what is land. You went to the different types of transactions and whatever you covered. Okay, you started mortgages. Members, let's get back. This is our last class for land until the final exam. Land is done. Okay, land is done. Okay, public holidays on Friday. Okay, so are we together? So land has come to an end. Whatever you've not appreciated, wait it in the final exam. So it comes back to you. Okay, as you are concluding this week, watch your book. Watch your book of land transactions, because after this week you're going to put it aside, so you're going to forget about it. You remember that book when you see the timetable, but you'll be having limited time. So this week, make sure you're reading the entire land. Okay, and it comes to an end. Watch your book, make corrections, organize it, and you call it a year. Land is the simplest question to pass. Okay, so this is your last it is only one. So you either pass it or it passes you. So whether you like it or not, we have to pass it. Okay, yes. Okay, it is only last time you had an opportunity that they choose the two best done, but this time around it is the one best done or worst done. So go and shoot it. It's your final shoot. Okay, you need this. You need at least you need a 7 out of this IA. Okay, and you're not going to know your marks. You will know them when the finals come out as well. Nothing, you're going to go like that after the finals. They won't get. What if you've not passed and you don't pay us tuition? You collapse for no good reason. What if you lose interest in the course? It is our problem. We need many lawyers in practice. Okay. So let me wish you the best of luck. May the good Lord bless you. Don't relax because land is done. Even next week, okay, you're doing civil, not so? Civil will have another session. Then after also family, you do one class like this. And those books, you'll keep them if you forget them. Okay? We shall. Okay? So tomorrow, we need to come a little bit early. Okay? We need to come a little bit early. Reason it's better because tomorrow's classes, if we can start at by 5 your classes will be done, not so? Yes. So if we start at 5, yeah, it's on you. Okay. So now, if tomorrow, okay, we can start at 5 and we leave this place by 8, we shall have done like 4 numbers of land transactions. Because remember, tomorrow we are doing question approach, like we did last time. So the earlier we come and the more time we concentrate, the more we shall do the more questions. Okay? And remember, I don't have time, mark that. So let me wish you the best. Let's meet tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.